Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the monthly Town of Milton Board meeting. Today is February the 26th, 2025. The time is 6:30. I'd like to get the meeting started with the pledge by Councilwoman Soden.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Mickey.
Present.
Councilwoman Soden.
Present.
Councilman Polish.
Present.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Present.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Present. First, a motion to accept the regular board meeting minutes from January 9th, 2025, January 15th, 2025, January 29th, 2025.
Make the motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilmember Mickey.
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden. Councilman Polish.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next on the agenda is going to be a public hearing considering a local, change to local law number 2 of 2025, amending section 180-24 subdivision H of Article 6, Chapter 180 of the zoning. Brenda, could you read the notice that was in the paper, please?
Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Milton will hold the public hearing on Wednesday, February 26, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear from the public regarding the proposed local law 2 of 2025, amendment code chapter 180-24 subchapter H, commercial vehicles. The documentation for the local law is located at the Town of Milton website.
Thank you, Brenda. The current time now is 6:33. The public hearing is now open for anyone in the audience that would like to speak in reference to the code change. Raise your hand and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Yes, ma'am, in the red. Yep, just if you would come up to the mic, give your name and address and.
Kevin, can you turn it on, please?
For a reason,
I can't see
the Zoom at home.
They can't see this?
No, she's.
Thank you for clarifying the rules of the business process. I appreciate it. My name is Liz Vandenberg. I'm at 1367 Armour Road in Rock City. I just want to make it a point to go on public record that I absolutely am in support of this change in your local law. And for the basic premise that I am strongly of the mindset that anybody that owns property, as long as they are not impeding their neighbor's right to have safe drinking water and a good solid 6 or 8 hours of sleep at night, that they are free to do what they so choose with their property, as long as they are complying with your rules and paying their taxes. Just wanted to invite anybody else. It seems like this is your window of opportunities to speak if you so choose. So please follow suit.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Elliott. I live on Amy Road, where I've lived for more than 20 years, and I've also boarded horses in the town of Milton for more than 20 years as well, at a wonderful farm that is fantastic. I want to speak in favor of this change in the zoning, in large part because I think it will support small business people who live in this town, who need to be able to have their equipment on their properties in order to be able to stay here. And particularly those who have been long-term residents need to be able to be here and with the support of the townspeople. I would also add that I have that there are lots of farms in our town, and they all have large pieces of equipment of one kind or another. They're not the same as the other kinds of businesses, but I think there's a comparable situation there, and we allow it for farms. I think we should allow it for small business people too. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir.
My name's Chris Wimple. I live at 1395 Armor Road. I'm gonna try to make this short and sweet, but I, like many others here tonight, own a small business here in town that requires a truck. These trucks are how we make a living and provide critical services for the community. Things like fuel oil deliveries, septic tank services, excavating, waste removal, firewood, contracting, landscaping, you name it. It all requires a truck. And there's no way around it. We need them. We're all hardworking folks that get up every day, put our lunch pail in our truck and go to work. I think as a community, we should encourage and support our local community members and small businesses, not discourage them by telling them that they can't park here. So as long as you have a safe space on your property to park your vehicle, I think you should be able to.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
John Mancini, Plummer Road, and first I want to thank the town board for bringing this local law to the forefront. I know it's been a discussion point for quite a while now, and it really is a pro-small business piece of legislation as I view it. I think there's way too much government burden regulations on our small businesses. We want people to live in the town of Milton. I know the town is going through the comprehensive plan committee right now, that ultimately we're going to be looking at all the regulations. A couple of years ago, this town board supported agriculture. And I complimented you then, I'll compliment you tonight. And I think by passing this common sense legislation is a nod to our small business men and women to allow them to live, work, and play in the town of Milton. We want to keep our people. And I think this is a step forward. So I wholeheartedly support this change and thank you for addressing it.
Thank you, John. Yes, Michelle Judah.
Hi, Michelle Judah, 34 Van Tassel Lane. Just want to be on the record to say that I am in support of this as well for all the reasons that people have said. When we have an opportunity to talk about other business, I will speak to something that I think is somewhat related to this, but not directly to the resolution. I'm fully in support of that, and I want that to be clear.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Hearing none, Brenda, there's no Zoom
Nope.
correct tonight? Okay. This will be added to the end of the agenda tonight, so after we close the public hearing, if anybody wants to stay for the entire meeting, we will be voting on this at the end of our meeting. So I'll take a quick pause after we close the public hearing to give those people that do not wish to stay, because I believe most of the people here are here in reference to the code change, so I'll give you a chance to exit before we continue the meeting. So at this time, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Delnicki.
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. If anybody that's here, that was just here for that and would like to leave now, I'll give you a quick break in between. If you do not wish to stay for the entire meeting, you can go ahead and exit now. So I'll just wait just a minute or two if anybody wants to get up and leave. Okay, moving along with the agenda. Next on the agenda is public comment number 1. Public comment number 1 is on the agenda items only. If anybody in the audience would like to speak on the agenda items only, go ahead and raise your hand. Seeing none, public comment number 1 is now closed. Next on the agenda is a presentation of the Town Center Plan Update Draft Report by Dave Taillon, the Senior Project Manager from LaBella Associates. Good evening, Dave.
Thanks for having us. With me is Sadie Kratt. She's our transportation planner, who's instrumental in pulling together the draft that was submitted last week. And Ethan Townsend, he's with the CRTC. They're the funding partner for this project, and they've been working with us hand in hand for a year now. We started this kickoff meeting in this room in February. Dave Bramers, our point of contact, has been instrumental, as well as Barb's been assisting as needed along the way. I'm gonna get through this quick, because I was asked to not dilly-dally. Ask questions if you wish, if I encourage them, but unless you interrupt me, I'm gonna get through this and get to the questions at the end, and get to the rest of your meeting. Spend a few minutes talking about how we got to where we are today. Spend a little bit of time, majority of the time, talking about our proposed enhancements based on our study, including cost estimates, and then we'll wrap up with some, where do we go from here? We are asking that comments on the draft that was submitted last week be received by Friday, the 7th of March, and then we will finalize the report and issue a final version to the town for adoption at your March board meeting. That'll be submitted no later than the 19th of March. In the draft study that was submitted last week, this is just a table of contents. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I do want to spend a minute, though, on public engagement, key part of these studies. Started with a workshop in July of 24 at the town community center. It was very well attended, a lot of engagement there. We had 2 focus groups with a handful of people at each one, including the school district, residents, business owners. Those were both very valuable. And in addition, we had a interactive mapper. Some of you may have seen it on the town website. It's a way to collect information at people's leisure on the study, shows the town, the study limits, and they can enter basically anything they want. I'd like to see a crosswalk here. I'd like to see a light put here. I'd like to see, what would they like to see? I'd like to see a sidewalk from here to here. So it was, I don't have the numbers, but it was a lot of input was received from the residents about that through the interactive mapper. This was our purpose statement we created early on in the study. Obviously, there's a congestion issue for vehicle traffic. There's the heavy truck traffic. There's the concern of the westbound vehicles going northbound on Rowland. Lack of a bicycle infrastructure, which was highlighted. Lack of a full sidewalk network. There are sidewalks, obviously, but they're not a full, call it a connected sidewalk system today. And the goal was to enhance all of the above: the intersection, vehicle movements, bicycle head facilities, and most importantly, or as importantly, connection to the trails that are right outside your town center. That's in a nutshell the purpose of the study. We formed a study advisory committee that the town board approved probably last March, if I had to guess. It's even listed here. Very engaged committee. We had numerous meetings, probably close to half a dozen meetings throughout the study. In addition to the committee members you see listed, the project team was LaBella Associates Buyer Planning, who was on our team. As I mentioned, Dave and Barb were very helpful, as well as CRTC. They've been working hand in hand for the last year to develop the draft report that we prepared. For those who aren't familiar with the study area, working north to south, the northern end is almost up to Catskill Way, just south of there. To the west, it's a town line. To the east, to the east is the town line. To the west is Stone Church Road. And then to the south, it gets down to North Line. Then it goes east on North Line to pass the preserve. There's a preserve entrance on North Line. It goes just past there. That is the study area. Obviously, there are things happening to the east of the study area at Route 50 and North Line, which I don't want to spend too much time on, but we are aware of those, including a Smith Trail connection proposed at that roundabout. And that is happening, but at our study area, the closest we've come is we did do a traffic study at North Line and Rowland in June of 24. And that's level service A, which doesn't get any better than that today, that intersection. Is regarding the town center itself, which is the center of the study, and obviously a lot of issues there. It's a wide intersection. It does have 4 crosswalks today, striping only, no ped signals, level of service is BC, depending on the time of day and rush hour. And the crash history based on DOT's records, there's been 26 accidents at the town center, 4 of them resulting in injury. It's important to note that half of those were rear-ending, almost half of those were rear-ending accidents at the town center. I'm going to talk about proposed improvements, start with vehicle operations, and then talk about head and bike after this. The 2 areas we studied for intersection improvements, the first one is taking the existing intersection and basically leaving it as it is, if you will, nothing major other than some geometric improvements, some restriping, some minor roadway widening, possibly to make that westbound, northbound vehicle movement more acceptable geometrically. But on top of that, improving the PED signals, which don't exist today, improving the signal itself. There's you can modernize your signal so it's more, I'll call it smart, for lack of a better phrase. Simple thing like those back plates on the signals, putting those on all the signals that are out there today, improve safety. So improving the intersection as it is today, minor geometric improvements, enhance the pedestrian signals, or install pedestrian signals, enhance the signal system there. And that is one of our areas. One concept we looked at is a signal intersection upgrade at the intersection. Second one we looked at in concept was a roundabout. It would be a single lane roundabout. They are proven to be safer you actually may increase your incidence of vehicle accidents, but the severity of it goes way down. You have much fewer serious accidents. There are, I'll show on the next slide, shows it better. There's called pedestrian refuge islands. You don't have to cross, in this case, both lanes of traffic to get across to the other side of the road with a roundabout. It does reduce the speeds. Level of service A is what you get with a roundabout, and it'll stay at level of service A with greater traffic volumes for future growth. And you also get the added benefit of a streetscaping placemaking in the center of it. I don't know if you've been through too many roundabouts. There's usually a landscaping of some sort in the center, and there is reduced maintenance. You don't have a signal. You know, that curb that keeps getting mounted at the corner by Cumberland Farms. Stewart, sorry, get my bearings. This is an existing roundabout in Glenville, just south of here off of Route 50, just east of Route 50. East. So this is Glen Ridge Road and Maple Avenue, and was a signalized intersection. It's not a town center, so I'm not going to kid you. But it might be hard to see, but there's crosswalks there, and you can cross one lane of traffic, and then you're in what's called a refuge area. Then you get to the other side. So that's one of the benefits of a roundabout, a single lane roundabout. You can cross one lane at a time and be in a place where you can wait for traffic to clear. Brief, this is in the draft report, a summary table of the differences between the two. I don't want to spend too much time on this. We've talked about some of them already, but they both have their benefits, and we're not recommending one over the other. We're including them both in our report in terms of benefits and pros and cons and costs, but we're not saying this. We think a signalized improvement or intersection improvement or roundabout is preferred over the other. That should be done in a preliminary design phase of intersection improvement. Those are the 2 vehicle operation improvements. Move into some pedestrian improvements. Currently, you can see in and around the town center, there's the Geyser Road Trail, which ends at the town line. You got the Woods Hollow Preserve, which the town just acquired from Ballston Spa, town center itself, and then the residential neighborhoods that surround the town center. And then there's the list of some gaps there that we're trying to address. That's coming from the east. You see the end of the trail. There's a preserve. We're calling this Geyser Road East is that segment. Then you have the Rowland Street to the preserve, and then you have Geyser Road West. We're going to talk about each of those very quickly. Shared use path concept, if you are familiar with the Geyser Road Trail that ends at the town line, that's a shared use path. It's 10 feet wide, it's paved, it's a hard surface. It's a 3-season trail, i.e. there's no maintenance done on it during the winter. One of the differences between a sidewalk system and a shared use path system is that the shared use paths tend not to be clear during the winter. So today, this is if you're standing at the town center or near the town center, looking east towards the state park, this is what you have today. You have two travel lanes, you have a center turning lane all the way almost to the town line. And then on both sides of the road, you have a 5-foot sidewalk. The one concept would be adding a shared use path to the, in this case, the north side. It could go on the south side or the south side, but here it's showing it on the north. That becomes a 10-foot wide shared use path, and that would take you for option Geyser Road East from the town line to the town center. Geyser Road East, option A we looked at. This is just be a direct extension of what's there today. Goes in front of all the businesses and all the driveways that are there and brings you into the town center. Option B, the same, gets you to the same place, but it takes you behind those businesses. The difference here is primarily a right-of-way impact issue. If you chose this option, for example, then you would have to deal with some right-of-way most likely in the back, where the front option, most likely you could fit your 10-foot wide shared use path between the within the right-of-way that exists today. Moving to the west side of Rowland, again, the western limit is Stone Church Road. Here shows the option of the shared use path on the north side of the road. Option B would be the south. There's pros and cons of both, and it doesn't have to be. It can any variety between Geyser Road Trail and Stone Church Road of where it fits would all be discussed and debated and decided upon in a preliminary design phase to reach a preferred alternative. So those are the east-west options that we looked at. There's obviously those are all shared use path options. Rowland Street, trying to get from the town center down to the preserve. This one shows, we'll call it the direct route. This goes straight down adjacent to Rowland on the east or west side, or could switch over at some point. That takes you down to the preserve, and then we would extend it on North Line to the driveway park, access point for the preserve that's on Rowland, that's on North Line. Another alternative to get you to the connection from the town center to the preserve is through an off-road option, we'll call it. This also will have some property acquisition issues. And then when you get to the park, you still have to do something from the park to the town center to finish off the connections. Those are the two Rowland Street options that we looked at. I'm going to cover the next two sections very quickly. It's about crossings, which are several existing and some areas that should be looked at. And then we're going to talk about sidewalks themselves. Here you have the shown in yellow are the can't read that. Yellow are proposed. Yeah, those are on the interactive mapper I mentioned. People were saying, I like to see a crosswalk here. That one appears to be up by Catskill Way, that top one on the north end. The one in the middle, or the one in the south of, north of the intersection on Rowland is around where the McDonald's is proposed or it's been approved. There's existing sidewalks north and south of there, but you may want to look at a crossing to get people from where the current sidewalk ends, on the east side, for example. And then there's one at the airport, at the side street there on Geyser. So crossings are block can go into them, lighting, markings, signage, active signage, i.e. the rapid flashing beacons like you see down at the Geyser Road Trail crossing. Crosswalks are relatively inexpensive and can make a big difference in terms of pedestrian safety and accessibility and mobility at the town center. Sidewalks, a lot of sidewalks exist. That magenta color are all the existing sidewalks, and I'm sure many of you know the proposed sidewalks as part of the Milltown Center development. There's a proposed sidewalk as part of the McDonald's that's been approved. So more sidewalks are coming as a result of those two developments, but we looked at where else could sidewalks benefit from. So this one in the blue are what we're calling proposed. as part of our study, kind of filling in those gaps. And the red one, I believe, is the McDonald's, right? The lower one there on the roller, that's the McDonald's sidewalk. That's part of that development. There's an example of this area. We had Hannaford, Treble connecting the existing sidewalk to Geyser. South, this one's proposed as part of the town park, running along both sides, extending where the sidewalks are today as part of extension to the park. And these could supplement the shared use path. Doesn't have to be either or. You got to have a sidewalk or shared use path. On Geyser, for example, you could have the existing sidewalk on one side and a shared use path on the other, as an example. And then we talked about Woods Hollow Preserve. This is again where there's going to be a path proposed from the roundabout at 50. That's going to be need to be integrated with this system, whatever gets built as part of, if anything were to get built in this area as part of this effort. So cost estimates. I'm going to run through the 5 areas that we talked about. If you wanted to build, this is in $2027. We've inflated it for 2 years out from today. To build that 10-foot wide cross shared use path from the existing Geyser Road Trail out to Stone Church. It's just under 2 miles, and that would be just over $1 million. That includes design, inspection, and construction. We don't anticipate that would require any right-of-way, unless we don't expect that to be any right-of-way issues for that one. North-south starts at the town center and goes to past the nature preserve on North Line to the entrance to the preserve. And that one's a little bit shorter, and that one's just over $1 million. And the exact location of both of these options would be determined as part of a preliminary design phase to determine exactly north, south, east, west, where does it go and what would make the most sense. Intersection improvements. The first top one there is talking about taking the existing intersection, installing the new traffic signals, installing PED signals, reconstructing the intersection to make it geometrically enhanced for that westbound, northbound truck movement. And you have the room there. It might take some minor roadway reconstruction and striping, but it's not gonna, it wouldn't blow up the intersection and rebuild it. It would be, I would call it a minor. And we estimate that using DOT's preliminary construction estimating software that they have. In $27 would be $1.5 million. And then last but not least, the roundabout, single lane roundabout would be between 5 and 6 million. To come with that number, we took the estimate that was bid last year at Route 29 in Rowland, and then inflated it for 24, 25, 26, 27. Then we threw in a contingency. So that one is 5 to 6 million. And again, both of those alternatives would be assessed in a preliminary design phase to determine exactly, first of all, which one should we do, and then once you decide which alternative, then you hone in on the exact the details of that preferred alternative. And last but not least, the pedestrian sidewalk, crosswalks, lighting, ADA curb ramps. Those are all, I'll call it low-hanging fruit, could be done as part of other projects, as their own project. And they're relatively inexpensive in relationship to some other alternatives that we've discussed. Last but not least, I don't know how I'm doing on time. To wrap up here, where do we go from here? Obviously, and I forgot to mention, we've been coordinating with Barb and her comp plan committee. We've attended their transportation meeting. We've integrated and we've shared our results of our information. They've done the same. So we've been coordinating, communicating with the comp plan group. And obviously that needs to continue as they progress theirs. It really comes down to what priorities does the town have in this regard? What do they want to do? And then once you decide this is where we want to go, then you're looking at finding the grants and the funding for those opportunities. And then obviously there's many stakeholders in the town as it relates to this area and these projects. And then talk briefly about changing some of the town, the zoning issue on the agenda tonight about trying to call it limit access to these, where these conflict points are gonna be, and hopefully take 3 driveways, reduce it to 2 to get fewer points of where the cars and the people, the bikes are gonna coexist at the same time. These are just a sample of funding sources that are out there that would support not only the intersection improvements, but heads, bikes, trails, all the above, sidewalk, a lot of sidewalk project money out there as we speak. And I open it up to questions.
I had a couple of questions. I guess one of them, looking at the funding sources, obviously it looks like there's several grants and different things available. Looking at other towns and what they have done, what kind of impact would that actually have for the town residents? Aside basically taking off the top for grants and all that, what did that in the surrounding towns here, what does that come down to? Like, for instance, Malta. Glenville is a very small roundabout, so I don't really even see that as a comparable one, but thoughts on that?
I can't. I don't know. I'm not sure. I thought you were going in the sidewalk route, then you threw roundabouts at the end there. I've been told, and I don't have the studies that show sidewalks improve the town's home values, attractiveness. People say, oh, wow, I can walk to town. That's a plus. They like that. Not being able. Roundabouts can be sensitive in this area, especially. But they do have their place. I'm saying this is a place for one, but they do have their place. So we aren't at the level in our study. We do any survey. We didn't run any designs through the intersection, both the intersection improvements or it wasn't where we weren't, that wasn't part of our scope.
Yeah.
So I think when you get funding for an intersection improvement project, the first thing in any study, besides getting survey and getting, existing conditions, identified, is looking at the alternatives. What can we do here, including the no? You have to consider the do nothing as one, and then you hopefully consider 2 or 3 or 4 others, and then you hone down into the preferred alternative, and that's the one you develop into a final design and construct. So there's no final decisions being made in this report on that regard.
Yeah.
You had another question.
What came out of, and just kind of looking at what came out of that January 28th meeting with the community,
Sure.
any big ideas that kind of were consistent among different people? Because I know there's obviously lots of options.
Yeah.
Are there things that people kind of said, nope, we want this or that, or was it kind of all over the map? I know
Well,
that I was there and it was kind of.
It was a small sample size. I don't know how many residents live in the town today, but there was less than 50 people attended, and that included the project team and people like Bart, Dave. But when it came to we had boards like this board, we gave people stickers to option A or option B. When it came to the roundabout, I don't have the numbers, maybe Sadie does, it was many more dots under the roundabout than the intersection. I remember that.
Yep.
I don't have the exact number of dots on either one. And we did factor throughout this whole process, we really wanted to engage public. What do you want? That's really, we were scribes. We were like, tell us what you want and we'll put it in this report. So this wasn't LaBella's ideas or towns. It was really the public input. And we just were the facilitator, gathering it, making it. So we do have that. And I apologize. I don't even include that in the draft report.
It might be in there, but I wanna say it was like 12.
But all the other ones too, the Geyser Road, the Rollins Street, we gave them every option. Every time there was an option, we gave them an option to what would you prefer? And we have that. We should include that. But it's a small sample size though, it's the people that showed up that night, that's what they wanted. It's gotta take that into account.
So people still have time until March 7th, it sounds like, to submit comments, suggestions, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we're able to, address, we want to meet our schedule for the project is the end of March, is when we should be done, pencils down, final report issued. Yeah, March 7th is next Friday. Hope to get comments back.
I have a quick question. If we looked at the four options and we took the four options, we're looking at about a $10 million project.
Correct.
In your experience, is there enough grant money out there to fund $10 million worth of this project?
That's a big project, depending on the grant. There's two philosophies on that. You piecemeal, say, hey, let's do the trails and some shared use path and get money for that, because that could be a different pool of money. CRTC has the TIP, which is federally funded projects that go through the NPO. If you have a study that shows doing A, B, C, and D, and it's 10 million, we would like to get it funded. Problem with CRTC TIP process, the application period just passed and there's not another window till 27. So, that's not ideal, but I don't want to discourage bundling this into a single project and.
No, I guess what I'm looking at is certainly these things are all fine, well and good, but it also puts a minor burden on our taxpayer. And to have to come up with 10 million is a big deal. Are these matching funds? Are they, I guess, in your experience?
Yeah, it varies wildly by programs. There's programs out that are 100%, like New York State Culvert Program, DOT, it's called Culvert New York, 100% paid by the state, 0 local match. 80-20 is a common split, 80 federal. A lot of the programs that Ethan's office administers, it's federally funded. Sometimes it's a federal fund and then a state local match. Every combination, 80-15-5, 80-10-10. I mean, it's all, you want to get the federal funding, bottom line. That's where the big money is. And there's a lot of sidewalk money and you can use them for shared use paths. We just did a project in Glenville, mentioned Glenville. It was half a mile long sidewalk, but it connected this large apartment complex to Route 50. It was great. It was through DEC, through climate change. DC. Yeah. Anyway, so there's DEC we funded, and that was 80-20. That was 80-20 state, local. So it varies, and there's a lot of people out there that can help you find the money.
And my last question here is, when you look at these type projects, let's say you did a roundabout out here, would there be disruption for over a year?
Well, I can say this, the intersection is not going to ever close. You know what I mean? They'll never detour people around the intersection. The construction contract documents will require traffic in all 4 directions to be maintained at all times. That might mean one-way traffic, one lane flaggers, and you have to alternate. And probably what's going to happen up just north of here at 29 this summer, this spring, it's going to be done this fall. There's going to be a little bit of pain, especially, but you can restrict the contractor from working till like 9 a.m. and be done by 3 if you choose to on weekdays. There's ways to minimize that pain. But the intersection will remain open at all times. They do it all the time. It's just, it takes longer when you start to closing an intersection radical. Unless there's an obvious detour, like just divert people. But I don't see that happening here. Businesses want it done very quickly. Start to the end of construction, they want it as fast as possible. As well as.
I think that's it for the board. Anybody in the audience have any questions? Yes, sir.
What would you do to mitigate potential pedestrian automobile collision? Like if you weren't.
sidewalk into Catskill.
Yeah.
People fly 55, 60 miles an hour up and down that hill. You come over the top of that hill, you can't see anything. Yeah. What would you do to try to mitigate that from happening?
There's actually, a standard advanced warning signs for pedestrian crossings, which there actually isn't one on Geyser. I can bring that up, but, so you have the sign at the crossing that says there's a crossing right here, that's tells you you're at the crossing, but then 250 feet, depending on the speed limit, you put a sign crossing ahead, let them know, hey, there's a crossing coming up. At the trail, the town line, there's a crossing with the flashing beacons that are push button activated, and that does alert the driver. It's a better than a static, I'll call it static signage. It's different. Should get the driver's attention. They're pretty popular. You see them more and more these days. Your question about, that's called vertical sight distance. If it's a vertical curve issue where you probably don't want to encourage putting a crosswalk where sight distance is at a high speed road is an issue that would be, I'm not sure you get an engineer to sign off on that.
A few months ago, 2 kids got hit on a dirt bike.
Oof.
I mean, yeah, they shouldn't have been on the street, but still, like,
Yeah.
across the street. I don't want to get hit by a car. I wouldn't want kids to get hit by cars.
Yeah, there are, it's called a warrant, and I just doing a job in Potsdam, New York, where they wanted a crosswalk here, and the DOT said it's not warranted. We don't put crosswalks just here, there, and everywhere. They have to be warranted, and a lot goes into what makes this crosswalk warranted and what type of crosswalk. There's raised crosswalks, I don't want to get details of all the types of crosswalks that are out there, but there are many, and they vary based on the situation, speed, sight distance, vertical, horizontal and vertical geometry, volume of cars, volume of pedestrians too.
Can I just ask, do you yet know whether there's a risk of needing to take somebody's property under eminent domain for any of these options?
The roundabout, I didn't touch on it. If it were, since we're going for the roundabout, then the current footprint, if you looked at the property maps for the intersection, you couldn't fit a roundabout in the current right of way. You have the town owns some of it, Stewart's, Cumberland's, the bank, right? So to fit it in, we may shift it towards the town property, to take more of their property, for example. But yeah, that one, I think we budgeted like 300,000. You basically take, a piece of the four property owners, and then
All commercial, none are residential?
for the roundabout. The other one, you could fit in most everything else we recommended within the right of way, as long as you weren't picky about what's called the buffer zone, which is from the edge of pavement to the edge of your trail or your sidewalk or your shared use path. If you're okay with a shorter utility strip, it's called, then you can definitely fit everything in. Some places do the snow storage, a little more safer experience. They like 5-foot buffer. If you had a 5-foot buffer with a 10-foot trail, you might not have 15 feet from edge of pavement. And then you might need to take 2 feet of somebody's property, the length of the project. I'm getting into very hypothetical situations here, but one way you fit in a path where, for example, there was a desire to have a wider buffer strip than what's there today.
Thanks for the opportunity. Have there been studies done on roundabouts, regarding, people who have mobility issues or disabilities trying to get through a roundabout? Is there studies about the safety or are there increased accidents for, people with those issues? I just know driving through them, I myself was looking this way, it's hard to keep paying attention to people walking through. Once you're in them, you're trying to get in the right lane to get out, and I
Don't
just.
worry about here, you'll be in the right lane.
All right,
It's the
so
only
what, single
lane.
lane, so that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I'm a disability advocate and just
Okay.
worry about people that might, not
Sure.
walk, have a cane, maybe are using a scooter or a wheelchair. How do they navigate a roundabout?
Ethan or Sadie, I can give you my opinion, but I don't wanna, it'd only be Taillon's opinion, and that's.
I just think the board needs that
Sure,
information before
sure.
they decide.
ERTC get into that?
Yeah, I don't know of any studies that directly address it, but it can be addressed with the, just the geometry, the distance of that, crossings, that pedestrian island. The pedestrian island is really helpful because instead of judging the gaps of cars coming both ways, you're just watching one direction at a time, and you can see the cost, and you can make it just one lane's distance versus the distance of a lane in either direction and a turn lane. So roundabouts, that's one of the benefits.
What I can say about any intersection, regardless of the improvement, is all curbs, curb ramps, all called the cross slope of the road will all meet ADA compliance. You won't be going up a steep hill or coming down a steep hill. The ramps will be ADA compliant. Everything that gets built here, regardless, any shared use path, any sidewalk, it'll all be ADA compliant. It'll be required as part of the grant funding. It won't accept anything less. So that's a good thing, right? So, but as far as a study, we'll share with the town. Get our.
Regarding the funding issue, is there any chance of reaching out to like the commercial businesses that it affects? To see if they'd be willing to contribute, because like he was talking about the crosswalk and the need for it. I know there's apartments right across the street from where that goes in the crosswalk near Gadsden, and it's so that people can better access Hanford and things like that from those apartment complexes. So, is there the thought to reach out to some of those larger businesses that, maybe they may contribute to funding to lessen the taxpayers?
See if the town wants to comment on that.
Well, I can say we're not in the business of soliciting money from people now, so, I mean, we cannot do that now.
I have one last question on the roundabout. As far as size of roundabouts, handling tractor trailer traffic, is there a standard roundabout for doing that?
Yeah, it's a big.
And that would be this roundabout?
A lot of it comes down to the curves that you put in. They're actually called mountable. They're not your hard granite 90-degree curve. They're meant to be driven on. And trucks need to drive on them to make, especially a one lane roundabout. There's a lot of science into roundabouts, and thankfully they've been around a long time, at least this state. And we're not learning how to do them right. I think given that a lot of it comes down to volume. This is definitely a big name roundabout. We don't have the volume for it too. And then it takes into account truck traffic, volume percentage wise, and then you put in the right curbs. And it's definitely traffic calming, it's called, device, roundabouts in general. You just can't go that fast through a roundabout. You're almost taking two turns like a chicane. And when you have that green light, you're going east, west, or north, south. How fast do you think you're going through that intersection right now? A lot faster than the other ones.
Anyone else? I think that's it, Dave. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on with the agenda. Next on the agenda is resolution number 18, resolution 18 of 2025. Resolution to hire director of planning for the town of Milton, whereas the town of Milton experienced significant increases in growth and development, which highlighted the need for the creation of a position of director of planning. And by resolution number 74 of 2023, the town board authorized and created the position of director of planning for the town of Milton of Planning and Development. And now therefore be it resolved, the town board, after due consideration, does hereby appoint and hire Sophia Marruso of 221 Round Lake Road, Ballston Lake, New York, 12019, to the position of Director of Planning for the town of Milton at grade 10, step 1, effective February 18th of 2025, part-time, at an hourly rate of $38.67 per hour per the town adopted compensation schedule with benefits as are provided for by the town policy, if any, and would said hire to be conditioned on a 6-month probationary period wherein her performance is and remains acceptable to the town board and pursuant to the town policy, and therefore be it resolved that effective the same date, February 18th of 2025, the contract between the town of Milton and Plan Site Consulting LLC, wherein Sophia Marruso was hired as a planning and zoning consultant, is hereby ended and terminated and canceled. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board, town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 18.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky.
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden. Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Absolutely, yes. Sophie, you do an outstanding job. Thank you. Next on the agenda is resolution number 19 of 2025, resolution providing endorsement of the Saratoga Plan application for Saratoga County Farmland Protection and Open Space Grant Conserve the Rogers Farm located at 9 North Milton Road, whereas Neil and Patricia Rogers, the owner of a certain real property consisting of 53 plus acres of visible agricultural land and tax parcel 164.1-1, 24.1, and 164.1-1-38.2, located at 9 North Milton Road in town of Milton, Saratoga County, New York, also known as the Rogers Family Farm, desires to protect the property for agricultural purposes by conveying a permanent conservation easement of the land, and now therefore be it resolved, the town board, town of Milton endorses the submission of the application from Saratoga Plan to Saratoga County Farmland Protection and Open Space Grants Program for funding to purchase the development rights on the Rogers Family Farm property, consents to the town of acting as a fiduciary for the funding and for Saratoga Plan to hold and uphold perpetual conservation easement of the land. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board, town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 19.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky.
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next resolution 20 of 25, resolution in order to set a public hearing on the establishment of an extension of Water District Number 3 in the town of Milton, County of Saratoga, State of New York, and to declare lead agency status under the State Environmental Review Act, whereas the town of Milton is in the process of reviewing its water districts and have been advised that there are certain properties that desire to be connected to the town of Milton's Water District Number 3, but which properties were not originally included within the boundaries of the water district or any extension thereof, or which now have petitioned or to be permitted to hook up to the water service or added to the district by legally extending the water district to include them as an additional consumer. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board, town of Milton hereby accepts the petition of Multiland Development Company LLC to extend the town of Milton Water District Number 3 and sets and will hold a public hearing to consider the establishment of the district extension as described in the preambles therefore, and to be known as Water Service Area Extension for Milltown Center and Town Highway Garage, and the improvements proposed thereof, and to consider the map and plan and report filed in relation thereof, and for such other actions, one, on the part of the said town board and may be required by law, shall be proper under certain circumstances, which hearing shall be held on the 26th day of March, 2025 at 6:30 PM at Town Hall, Town of Milton, 503 Geyser Road, New York, 12020, at which time and place all persons desiring to be heard therein shall be heard, and is further resolved the town board, town of Milton hereby declares and shall be designated as a lead agency for the purposes of the review under State Environmental Quality Review Act for establishment of the Water District Number 3 extension and described in the map, plan, and report aforementioned and is further resolved that the town clerk, town of Milton may be, and she is hereby is directed to publish notification of said public hearing as required by New York State law. A motion for resolution number 20 of 25.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden,
Yes.
Councilman Froelich,
yes.
Councilwoman Kerr,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, the next resolution number 21 of 2025, a resolution to issue a determination of a environmental significance in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act for development of the reimagined Milton site plan, whereas since 2022, the town has conducted a multi-phase long-term capital planning initiative entitled Reimagine Milton that is focused mainly in the town facilities, and the town has continued to work to refine the detail of the site plan for the future of 503 Geyser Road, Burgess Kimball Memorial Park property with a focus on implementing of the proposed program of improvements.
I'll make that motion.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board, Town of Milton as follows. The Town Board, Town of Milton hereby reaffirms classification of the project as a Type 1 action under State Environmental Quality Review Act and declares itself the lead agency for the purpose of the required coordinated review under seeker. And the Town Board hereby determines that based on the environmental assessment and review upon recommendation from the Town Engineer, Delaware Engineering, DPC, the project will not have any significant adverse impacts on the environment, and that the negative declaration pursuant to Part 3 of the SEAF attached hereto and made part thereof is hereby adopted, and the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to sign Part 3 of the PEAF, indicating therein that the environmental impact statement will not be prepared and to cause the notice of determination of non-significance attached to be filed as required by law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board, Town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 21.
Now I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky, Councilwoman Soden,
Yes.
Councilman Froelich,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next resolution 22 of 2025, a resolution to approve the modification of the Phase 2 general construction and plumbing contracts for the Round Street Highway facility per recommendation of Delaware Engineering, DPC, and the Facilities Committee. Whereas the town board was advised that certain additional plumbing and construction work was recently discovered that needs to be pursued as part of Phase 2 construction for the new highway, Round Street Highway facility, which upon further review will benefit the town, and the project were not anticipated nor covered by the original contract entered in between the town and the contractors, and which have not been recommended by Delaware DPC and the town engineer, project and architect. Now therefore be it resolved, town board, after due consideration and upon recommendation from the town facility committee, town engineer, project architect, Delaware engineer and DPC, and the review of the town comptroller authorizes and awards the following contract modification and change orders as set forth in the attached letter caption recommendation to approve contract modification of Delaware Engineering, DPC, dated February the 26th, 2025. Number 1, plant construction, installation of plywood, wall covering to mount necessary controls for the fire alarm security systems on all one wall and mezzanine electrical room in lieu of gypsum wallboard. At this modification was applied and drawn down to from the construction allowance that requires the unchanged net contract value in the sum of $0. And number 2, RF Gordon Mechanical LLC revised the electrical IT room to be domestic water booster pump room. The booster pump system is required of the Village of Ballston Spa and their consultant engineer facility. The highway garage connection to the water system this requires and will yield a net contract value change, an increase in the sum of $15,762.53. Resolved that the town board hereby directs the town supervisor to make whatever steps are necessary to execute the agreements between the town of Milton Plank LLC, RF Gordon Mechanical LLC for such contract modification, improvements and work, and any required changes, order documentation or inspection documentation which will be needed and necessary for processing and completion of the contract modification and change orders, and to do all that is required and pay all amounts owed under this agreement. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board, Town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 22, please.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden,
Yes.
Councilman Frolish,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next resolution number 23 of 2025, a resolution to issue findings and determination of governmental immunity from zoning in connection with redevelopment of the Town of Milton 503 Geyser Road Municipal Complex, Burgess Kimball Memorial Park enhancements, and implementation of the reimagined Milton site plan. Whereas Town Board, Town of Milton intends to redevelop, renovate, and expand the existing town hall municipal complex and portions of Burgess Kimball Memorial Park located 503 Geyser Road within the town, comprised of a single proximity of 20.1 acre parcel of land at which currently is located town hall, town court, highway department garage, parks development maintenance garage, and various other recreation and parkland improvements. And be it resolved that the Town Board, Town of Milton determines that the proposed project is exempt from any local land use regulations for the town in accordance with the County of Monroe case requirements and balance tests, and further be resolved that no further permits or approvals are required other than the building permit from the Town of Milton for this project. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board, Town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 23.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden,
Yes.
Councilman Frolish,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next resolution 24 of 2025, resolution to approve the schedule of budgetary amendments proposed by the Town of Milton, whereas Town Board, Town of Milton from time to time finds it necessary to make budgetary amendments within the budget year based on recommendations from the Town Comptroller. Now therefore be it resolved, Town Board hereby approves budgetary amendments and transfers as described and set forth in the schedule provided and recommended by the Town Comptroller, which said schedule is attached hereto and made a part thereof, and authorize Town Comptroller to proceed and make the necessary budgetary amendments as set forth therein. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board, Town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 24.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden,
Yes.
Councilman Frolish,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next, resolution 25, 2025, resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 new Western Star 47X cab and chassis along with tandem axle equipment packages for the use of the Town of Milton's Highway Department, subject to a permissive referendum. Whereas Town Highway Superintendent has advised Town Board it's necessary to purchase 2 new Western Star 47X cab and chassis along with 2 new tandem axle equipment packages, including a plow harness, wiring, wing harness, spreader system, spinner, and cab controls, and a side dump body for the purposes of maintaining and continued efficiency of the Highway Department. And now therefore be it resolved, Town Board hereby authorizes the appropriation and use of funds from the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund to use for and approves the purchase of said trucks in the Highway Department, and authorizes the Highway Superintendent to expend the sum up to $603,350 plus any other incidental expenses from said Highway Contract Equipment Reserve Fund in order to purchase and obtain the 2 2025 Western Star 47X cab and chassis from Tracy Road Equipment Corporation of 115 Railroad Avenue, Albany, New York, 12205, and 2 new tandem and axle equipment packages from Viking Civics USA of 14331 Mill Street, Harrisonville, New York, 13648. And further be it resolved that the town clerk and the Town of Milton is hereby authorized and directed to post the notice of the resolution in accordance with Section 90 of Town Law of the State of New York, and resolve the Town Highway Superintendent is authorized to enter into and sign all necessary documents, and to have paid from all allocated funds all amounts needed in order to effectuate the same once the satisfactory 30-day period has passed and all legal requirements have been met. Now therefore be resolved by the Town Board, Town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 25.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden,
Yes.
Councilman Frolish,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr, Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, Resolution 26 of 2025, resolution to appoint a member and an alternate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Milton. Whereas the Town of Milton Zoning Board of Appeals currently has a vacancy and the town board finds it necessary to fill said position along with the alternate position in order to have a properly functioning and complete Zoning Board of Appeals. And now therefore be it resolved, after due consideration, the Town Board, Town of Milton hereby appoints Margaret Stevens of 13 Whipple Tree Road, Ballston Spa, New York, 12020 as a full-time member of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Milton, which appointment will take effect and shall be effective February the 26th, 2025, and end on December 31st of 2027, and further appoints Brody Savoy of 7 Catalina Drive, Ballston Spa, New York, 12020, to the position of an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the period commencing February 26, 2025, and ending December 31st of 2025, both at a salary of $1,000 per year, prorated for the 2025 calendar year. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board, Town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 26.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden,
Yes,
Councilman-
with,
oh.
sorry, I just wanted to stay, I have
Well,
some reservations,
fine.
with Meg Stevens. I know she'll do a great job and she has done a great job on the planning board. Just as far as attendance goes, I know travel has been an issue, in the past and, I just hope that it won't be an issue going forward. So just wanted to state some reservations and I know she'll do a great job. And moving forward, hopefully it won't be an issue.
Just as a quick, Meg, we did discuss that with her
Okay, good.
and it should not be an issue.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, John.
okay, Councilman Frolish,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. As per the public hearing this evening, I am adding a resolution number 27 of 2025 to the agenda, resolution approving the local law number 2 of 2025, amending section 180-24H of Article 6, Chapter 180 zoning of the Town Code, Town of Milton. Whereas the town board has been reviewing various town regulations and related laws, and whereas the town board has caused and to be drafted a local law, section 184-24H, Article 6, Chapter 180 zoning of the Town Code, which local law has been placed on the desks of each board member, considered and reviewed as the board set a public hearing for the matter and official notice sent to the public and was duly properly advised in the official newspaper of the Town of Milton. On February 26, 2025, public hearing was held as required by law, and all those interested were invited to participate and be heard on the subject, whereas Town Board, Town of Milton believes that it be in the town's best interest as well as in the interest of the town residents at this time to enact the said local law. Now therefore be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Milton, that local law number 2 of 2025 is hereby approved, adopted, and enacted, amending section 180-24 subdivision H, Article 6, Chapter 180 zoning of the Code, Town of Milton, entitled Commercial Vehicles, a full copy which law is attached hereto, and be further resolved that the town clerk be and she is hereby directed to enter into the local law in the minutes of the meeting and the local law book of the Town of Milton and give due notice to the adoption of the said local law and file it with New York State Secretary of State. Now therefore be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Milton, a motion for resolution number 27, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky, Councilwoman Soden,
Yes.
Councilman Frolish,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Motion, next on the agenda, motion to approve the town clerk Brenda Howe to attend the New York State ECA training in Syracuse, New York, from April the 26th to the 30th, 2025, at a total cost not to exceed $1,300.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden, Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next, a motion to allow the American Diabetes Association Tour to Cure bike ride to use the town of Milton roads on June 1st, 2025. The event starts at Elms Family Farm and would be routed through the town of Milton using approximately 5.1 miles within Milton, Stone Church Road, Geyser Road, Lewis Road, Dewar Road, and Good Road.
I'll make that motion. Oh, so which one?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky.
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, the next, a motion to advertise for the summer camp director.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky.
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next, a motion to approve Jason Miller to buy back 60 hours of vacation.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Nicky.
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, the next, department and committee reports, animal control, Eric.
Animal Control Monthly Report for January 2025. Total calls 44, bite cases 2, animals seized 9, and tickets issued 6 for unlicensed dogs, 1 running at large, 1 nuisance dog for a total of 8. Respectfully submitted, David Drzezinski, Animal Control Officer.
Thank you, Eric. Assessor's report.
Note from the assessor, February 2025. Taxable status date is upon us. March 1st, 2025 is the deadline for the 2025 assessment roll. Please get your exemptions in. It must be postmarked by March 1st, as March 2nd, 2025 begins the 2026 assessment roll. May 1st will be the date for the tentative assessment roll. Question and answer. Why does Saratoga County ImageMate still show the prior owner? I bought my house in July. Saratoga County ImageMate is updated twice a year, once during a tentative roll and once during final roll. Any sales or change of ownership after March 1st will not show up until the following assessment cycle. In this case, it will show on the 2025 assessment roll. A reminder, you are taxed on the assessed value of your property, not the market value. Market values will change year to year depending on the equalization rate. Kind regards, Laura Orminsky, Town of Milton Assessor.
Thank you, Eric. Next, building department, John.
Okay. Dear Supervisor Ostrander and town board members, during the month of December, the Code Enforcement Department managed 14 building permits, collected $3,059.40 in building permit fees, collected $250 in planning and zoning board application fees, collected $16,000 in sewer fees, completed 115 construction inspections, fulfilled 28 fire safety inspections, responded to 13 code enforcement violations. A total of 38 certificate of occupancies were issued, along with 5 certificates of compliance.
Thank you, John. Next, building and grounds, Bart.
During the month of January, I did daily cleaning of community center, town parks, and all town offices, including the highway department, set up and takedowns at the community center as needed. I did monthly inspections of fire extinguishers and AED machines at town hall and the community center. With the many winter storms we have had, it's kept me busy plowing the parking lots at town hall, Woods Hollow, and community center, including sidewalks. We've done a lot of work at the community center over the past few months. Just finished painting the event room and the bathrooms. Worked on framing the walls and installed metal roofing for the new sand and salt shed with the help of the town highway department. Started framing the kiosk at the entryway to Woods Hollow at North Line Road entrance with help from the highway department. I'd like to thank the highway department for all their help. Respectfully submitted, Mark Leroy.
Thank you, Barb. Comptroller's financial reporting package issued to the town boards and made available for public inspection on the town website. Next, economic development, John.
Good evening.
This past month has been marked by meetings involving potential investors, brokers, and developers, all focused on long-term planning and sustainable growth. Discussions centered on new opportunities, site selections, and strategic partnerships to attract quality development. Ongoing projects continue progressing, ensuring alignment with long-term planning objectives, including infrastructure improvements with community impact remaining key priorities. Town remains committed to smart growth initiatives, balancing economic expansion with community needs. One of our approved projects with promising prospects for commercial and mixed-use developments that will enhance the local economy has stalled. However, efforts have been made to move it forward. The CRTC, Capital Region Transportation Council, and LaBella Associates, which is currently undertaking a study to ascertain the best plan to address the long-term needs of Rowland and Geyser intersection, along with sidewalks and bike paths, recently held a public meeting at the community center. There were many professional charts and graphs outlining the current progress, but the most important point of the meeting was to obtain citizen input from the options that were set forth. Unfortunately, only a handful of citizens showed up and were outnumbered by the board members and the CRT's LaBella staff. As a result, very little usable feedback was obtained to assist them in their decision-making process because of such a small sample. And this kind of leads into the comprehensive plan meeting. Another public meeting was held this month as part of our comprehensive plan by Delaware Engineering, who also made a very professional presentation to inform the citizens on current status of the study and to request input. Again, unfortunately, only 2 people attended, giving Delaware practically no useful information to incorporate into our plan. The importance of public input has been repeatedly stressed by LaBella and Delaware Engineering, and while efforts were made to publicize these events through posting on our website, Facebook, and social media, it is very apparent that our current means of reaching out to residents to notify them of important events is inadequate, and it needs to be reconsidered. Today, one of our most cost-effective and easiest ways of reaching a large group of people is through email blasts and/or text messaging. But obviously, information needs to be gathered. We currently offer the ability to submit an email address on our website, but need to enhance our efforts so a large database can be built in order to be a useful tool for communication and notification for anything that's happening in our town. So even a newsletter. To build a robust list for municipal email blasts or text, we should consider requesting information through the following. Putting them in tax bill inserts, social media campaigns, any kind of event sign up, direct mail requests, and/or press releases. Notification to residents of town events or other news builds a more inclusive, cohesive community and builds goodwill. Fast food projects. Following an encouraging meeting with the representative of a well-known fast food operation, a request for site consideration in Milton was sent to the real estate department for review. Following a recent conversation with another well-known fast food operation who expressed a serious interest in Milton, I met with their broker and discussed the possibilities of their investing in one of our commercial areas, the town center or Route 50. And this led to a meeting with the owner of the yet-to-open North Line Road convenience gas station, who indicated he would like to meet with the brokers to discuss further possibilities. Although a town center is still under consideration, not just Route 50. In a follow-up to previous conversations regarding another fast food operation, I met with a broker to give a tour of the area and our commercial sites, and again led to a meeting with the owner of the North Line Road project, who is looking to expand its commercial footprint. At that location, all 3 potential projects are still under consideration. The Milltown Center project. While this project has been approved by the planning board for construction, it was necessary to have final plans approved by New York State DEC. And according to the developer, the project has been languishing in DEC with no forward movement for several months. Obviously, the developer has not been able to break ground. Since this project is an important factor in the economic development of our town center, I had a meeting with SEDC and subsequently another meeting with Assemblywoman Mary Beth Walsh in an attempt to elicit her aid in obtaining final DC approval. She was very understanding of the importance and urgency of this project and the fact that we cannot attract more businesses until this project is fully approved and underway, and indicated she would make this a priority to intervene and contact DEC to facilitate this to a positive conclusion. And my additional activities as a member of the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, I continue to attend the monthly meetings, in addition to the regular planning board meetings, county meetings, as well as functions of the Saratoga Chamber of Commerce. And that's it for a short month of February.
Thank you, John. Next, Next, Health Officer Eric.
It's a little longer than usual. Kickback, community public health in spring, ensuring safety and well-being. Intro. Spring is the season of renewal and growth, but it also brings with it a unique set of public health challenges, from the emergence of insects and allergens to the necessity of water safety. It is essential for communities to be proactive in safeguarding their health and well-being. Insect protection and yard safety. With the arrival of warmer weather, insects such as mosquitoes and ticks become more active. To protect against insect-borne diseases, it's crucial to stock up on insect repellent and sunblock. Proper preparation of garden and yard tools is also necessary to prevent injuries. Always use gloves when working in the yard to avoid cuts, scrapes, and potential infections. Allergy and respiratory illness management. As respiratory illness season wanes, allergic conditions such as rhinitis, asthma, and rashes become more prevalent. It is important to address these conditions early, manage symptoms effectively to maintain overall health. Water safety. With the reopening of pools and beaches, water safety must be a priority. Ensure appropriate supervision of children and inspect boat flotation devices to ensure they meet safety standards. Where possible, drain standing bodies of water to reduce mosquito larvae and prevent the spread of insect-borne diseases. Bird flu and agricultural concerns. Bird flu continues to affect poultry and has recently been found in cows, with a few human cases reported. Farmers are taking preventative measures, but free-roaming poultry remains at risk of infection from wild birds. It is vital to stay informed about the latest developments and take necessary precautions. In conclusion, spring brings a variety of public health challenges, but with preparation and vigilance, communities can enjoy this season safely. By addressing insect protection, allergy management, water safety, and agricultural concerns, we can ensure a healthier, happier spring for everyone. Gail Buckley, MD.
Thank you, Eric. Next, Highway Department, John.
Okay, the Highway Department has been busy cleaning the roadways from the severe ice and snowstorms that have already occurred this season. Once our roadways are cleared, we do send crews out to push back the snow on the side of the roads and in the intersections. The safety of our town residents is always one of our top priorities. We ask residents to remember the town code that prevents them from parking in the roadways from November until April. The code makes sure that the roadways are clear so that we can safely plow. The Highway Department tries to make a sand salt mixture available to town residents during the winter months. The salt sand mixture will only be available to town residents on a first come, first served basis. The salt and sand mixture may only be taken in 5-gallon buckets or containers. Please, no more than 2 or 3 buckets per household, and please, no contractors. You must be able to provide proof of Town of Milton residency when getting your mixture. Due to the shortage in the salt supply, there may be times when this service is not available. The mixture will be available during highway operating hours and located within the highway gates.
Thank you, John. Next, Mike, historian.
Evening, Mike Companion, town historian. In terms of this report this month, I'm continuing doing working with my committees. on projects and plans for the 2025. On February 13th, I met with the Historic Structures and Places Committee, discussed a number of upcoming events related to the preservation and recognition of important structures and sites in the town, development of town. One of our purviews is cemeteries. We are planning a ceremony on May 17th at the Rock City Falls Cemetery for anybody who lives in Rock City Falls, want to attend. Basically, this ceremony will be for the unveiling of a Revolutionary War sign for veterans buried there. It's one of the, I think it's our 6th or 7th we've done so far in the last couple of years. We also will be looking at the history of Rock City Falls. One of the speakers we're going to have is actually a descendant of George West. If you guys are familiar with George West, he was one of the biggest paper bag producers in the world. He was a paper bag king of the world at one point, right here in our town. And his ancestor is actually a cousin of mine. He's actually going to be speaking there about his great-great-grandfather. We're also going to talk about the cemetery, the establishment of the cemetery, as well as the establishment of Rock City Falls. We also will be looking at the Circle C Cemetery this spring. I'm planning on putting a sign up designating where that cemetery actually is. You can't go to it. It's on private property, but you'll know where it's actually located. There are about 11 graves there, which you can't access unless you get permission. We also, this is an ongoing question that's come up our committee for the last, I guess, I wasn't the historian since 2019, according to Scott, which is the Rock City Falls Cemetery, which, I'm not the Rock City Falls, the West Milton Cemetery, which is now at this point considered abandoned. And we're trying to get it under the control of the town. And we're going to try to address that. I'm going to reach out to the county historian, see what advice she can give me to try to get that under our control officially. And again, I asked Jim about it before in terms of, but there's some legal difficulties, I guess, in ascertaining who actually owns it. So that's one of the issues we're facing. I also met with the County 250th Commission, Revolutionary War coming up as far as this year. 2025, 1775 is when the Revolutionary War starts in Lexington. We've been working I worked on that part of the commission for the last 3 years. I met with on February 4th and 24th to discuss upcoming events and projects for 2025, which is focused on commemorating Knox's train of artillery. If anyone knows the history of Henry Knox, he is the artillery officer appointed by George Washington. He was tasked with the job of moving cannon from Ticonderoga to Boston. And starting in December of 1775, lasting until March. So I think they moved about 58 guns, large guns, 300 miles in that winter. And it actually forced the British to evacuate Boston. So we're commemorating that as part of our history in at least Saratoga County, because it went right through Saratoga County. The train of artillery went right through. So we'll be heavily planning things on December 12th and 14th. It's going to be a big deal. We're going to have like 5 counties involved in this. So we're all going to be moving cannons. We're going to be firing cannons. There's going to be historic interpretations as a person being Henry Knox. So again, it's going to be a big program. So if anybody's interested in the Revolutionary War, you should come to see that December 12th through 14th. Okay, well, we'll be broadcasting, posting things. In fact, I just heard today that the county has given us 10 banners to put up in our town, basically sponsoring the 250th. So we're going to designate some along this area in the town center, as well as down the village too. So I'll probably put those up in April as well. That's very important. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Next, Justice Court Clerk.
Justice courts, total monies collected and remitted to the state controller. Fines, $3,328. Surcharges, $2,252. Civil fees, $435, for a total of $6,015.
Thank you, Barb. Next, planning, consulting, and zoning report. Meg.
All right, first up, we have Sophia Marruso, our planning consultant. Just a couple updates. You can read the full report online. She attended the planning and zoning board meetings. Planning review for the proposed 410 Geyser Road site plan and 272 Stone Church Road. Major subdivision, the ZBA review for the McDonald's area variance. Conducted 12 additional stormwater outfall inspections. And review for the reimagined Milton plan as well. And then several other ongoing items for that. Planning and zoning. For the planning board, which was February 12th, it's 272 Stone Church Road was the major subdivision. There's a public hearing that was continued from last month. The board reopened and closed the public hearing with no comment. The board moved to approve the major subdivision application for the preliminary plat approval, subject to several conditions. The applicant will address comments and bring back a final plat for approval in 1 to 2 months. 410 Geyser Road, which is a special use and site plan. The applicant has revised the site plan for a bar with associated athletic uses. The applicant has been working with the planning consultant and the building department on getting a final site plan application together. The applicant has some modifications for the site plan. The board passed a motion to declare the project as an unlisted action under seeker and establish the planning board as the lead agent. The board noted that if everything is in order for the March meeting, they could set a public hearing for the site plan for April 9th. Town board referral for the Reimagine Milton. The board discussed comments and recommendations regarding Reimagine Milton. Comments included completing town center streetscape improvements on Rollins Street, questions on the drive-through from Geyser to Rowland, and traffic calming measures and some compatibility of uses within the design. The board authorized the chair to finalize a memo to the town board in advance of the February meeting. Fair Oaks Road dedication, the board moved to accept the as-built drawings and to authorize the chair to stamp the drawings with substantial agreement with the final subdivision plat. Their next meeting will be March 12th. The zoning board, there's no new updates. The next zoning board meeting is tomorrow night, 2/27 at 7 PM.
Thank you, Mick. Next, receiver of taxes, Lisa.
Supervisor Ostrander, town board members. The taxes collected from January 28th, can you hear me?
No, pull it down.
So taxes collected from January 28th to February 19th totaled $1,940,045.43. The total amount of taxes collected to date is $8,322,426.99. As of February 19th, we've collected 82% of taxes overall, with $968.17 collected for penalties and $80 for return check fees. Check was given to Supervisor Ostrander on February 8th in the amount of $3,128,446.73 in accordance with the 2025 tax warrant issued by the Saratoga County Treasurer. I will be collecting taxes in February, March on Thursdays and Fridays from 9 to 4. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, town clerk, Brenda.
Hey, so for, excuse me, month of January, we had 3 marriages, 9 certified marriage certificates, 71 certified death certificates, 9 FOIL in search of records requests, 125 dog licenses, with 27 of those being online. We had 2 fishing licenses and 5 just community center rentals with a town share of $3,199.42.
Thank you, Brenda. Any youth bureau this month, Brenda?
Nope, not this month.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment number 2. Public comment number 2 is on any town business. Public comment number 2 is now open if anyone would like to speak. Tom Bogosian.
Good evening, and I just want to make a couple of comments. First, I wanted to mention what a good job. I've been a member of the Town Center Plan Update Committee, and Dave and his team has done an outstanding job. They kept everybody on track, goal orientated, and I really appreciate that. I've served on a lot of committees, and you kept it going from beginning to this draft report. Done a really good job. Meg, I think you asked a question about what impact it would have to the town for implementing some of these things. And sitting on a committee and being in the construction business, I think the two things that came to mind is enforcement. In other words, sidewalks have to be cleared, you gotta enforce it. So when you put more sidewalks in, you're gonna have to enforce that and keep them clear. And the other thing that's gonna have to happen is as we put in place more improvements, we have to have a plan and a budget for maintaining them. Whether crosswalks or striping them, lighting, all those kinds of things. As we do that, if we don't have a plan for maintaining them, we're gonna get them in and they're gonna function for a while and then they're gonna not be 100%. And I think, John, you mentioned something about overall being $10 million. As I see it, it would be anything from our forces, Jason, putting some sidewalk in front of Hannaford maybe, to reimagining the town when more of those improvements we put in, but it would be a phased incremental funding from different sources, whether it be sidewalks or PIPs or for highway and traffic. But I think it would just happen once we establish our want or need to do that. I think it would just be looking at each opportunity that came along. And whether it would be when we did reimagine or, you know, if there's areas that the town highway guys could put in sidewalks and right away, that type of thing. So I don't think it'd be 10 million when we're done, but I think if we look at it today, if we take a plan for it, I think we can incrementally over the years get these improvements in place. As I said the day before the meeting, and some of you remember, I remember when sidewalks were illegal in the town of Milton. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Wow.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Steve Gillish. I live in Rock City Falls. Lived there for 45 years. First I want to commend the town for making a change in the ordinance. But I also have to say that it wasn't enough, to be honest with you. And let me preface it by saying that Rock City Falls is located at the most northwestern portion of the town. There are places where the houses are hundreds of feet from other houses. When I first heard about this restriction, about this vehicle weight restriction, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't believe it was true. But I firmly believe that we need a top-down review, particularly in the R2 area, to look at the requirements and the restrictions to make sure they're valid. What is the history behind it? What is the need for such a thing? The 9,300-pound restriction for a vehicle was, I guess, adopted quite some time ago, and I'd like to know what the expectation was, what they were hoping to preserve. As I said, we are hundreds of feet between houses. And in many cases, I don't even see my neighbor. What is the value of added? He has a truck that's 10,000 pounds. It doesn't make any sense. I am concerned that in this town, particularly in the state, there are more and more restrictions being added all the time. President Trump has a new expectation that with every new requirement, 10 have to be removed. I really think that we need to adopt something like that here. I really love where I live. I really do. I've lived there for a long time. I plan to die there. Not today. But I'm concerned that our state and even our town is becoming more and more restrictive. I would like to do a top-down, as I mentioned, a top-down review of all of the requirements, particularly in the R2 area, to find out what the validity, the need for such a requirement is, and to see if it's still practical. I would love to participate in that. And I'd love to have a number of residents would also participate in that without the town. because I think we have a fair assessment of people who've got. I think a lot of time restrictions are hand in hand with a power and authority. We are a free people, and I want to remain a free people. And I think this town always, as far as I remember, always exemplified that. I want that to continue. Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you.
I'd like to address that quickly for you.
Okay.
We're in the process of doing our comprehensive plan and redoing it, which was, as you said, way overdue. And we can only apologize for that. And that's why we're doing a catch up here. We will be going into zoning after the comprehensive plan, and we want your input. We want the input from the R2 area. We know a lot of our zoning is well outdated. So watch our webpage. You're welcome at all our meetings, and we will listen to you.
I would hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Michelle.
Michelle?
Thank you. Again, Michelle Judah, 34 Van Tassel Lane. Couple of things that came to mind as I was listening to the meeting tonight. Meg, I interpreted your question because you talked about the cost of the project and you were asking on the impact of the residents.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful information.
Yeah,
from Mr.
economically.
Bogosian's, but I
Right,
thought your
yeah.
question was economic
Yeah.
and Mr. Froelich echoed that in his question. And I think it's an important question, to think about. I think you have to do something with that intersection, particularly with where the town is going and with Milltown Center. It's going to cost something, there are ways to plan for it, obviously, but I do think it's an important question that a board should always be thinking about. I think that unfortunately, in the current environment that we have at the federal level, you have to be really careful about thinking about what type of support there'll be for infrastructure projects like this. And quite unfortunately, as that trickles down to the state and the state loses money from the federal government, you're probably going to see less, support there as well. So I think that makes it even more of an important question as you're figuring out how to fund this. It does bring to mind, it would be great for us to hear you mention climate smart communities. I believe we adopted a resolution that became a climate smart community. I think Mr. Delnicki is heading the committee last I heard on that. I'd really love to hear what's going on. Has that committee met? What are we doing? I was listening to public meeting in the city of Saratoga Springs. They have really worked to maximize that. They did get some funding from the state, having adopted that and moving through the process. We haven't, and I also heard in that meeting that it's possible the state might be kind of shutting that down. So we might have missed the opportunity to maximize that. So it would be good to look at that and, you might have more current information than I do as to whether that's happening. Again, the roundabouts, please do get that information on people with disabilities and mobility impairments, sensory impairments. They may be working extra hard to be really super aware of everything around their surroundings. Drivers are going into that thinking, I gotta look over my left shoulder and get into this and move, right? The whole purpose is to keep traffic moving. And I'm not an engineer, but just from my own kind of common sense, I think if somebody's having a hard time moving, if traffic comes to a stop and there's a crosswalk, you're at a stop, right? So you're going to notice that person who might be struggling to get across. Whole purpose of a roundabout is to keep the traffic moving. So I'm concerned about that. Public feedback. Sounds like there was not much, which is kind of a shame. I would remind the board that there was a lot of public engagement on your Facebook page in regards to that project. A lot of it was do nothing to that intersection. And quite sadly, I'm concerned that some of that feedback is potentially misinformed because we do seem to have a lot of residents who are not aware of what's happening in the town, might not be fully aware of the impact of Milltown Center, some of the things we're doing. And that's why they're like, why are you even looking at that intersection? They couldn't imagine why it would be a topic of interest. So I also want to say that I agree with Mr. Olenek in terms of, we need some fresh ideas in regards to how to reach people. I loved hearing him talk about text messaging. I happened to mention that last fall. We really do need to find a way to get our community aware and knowing what is happening. So the thing I planned on saying was, in addition, and it kind of echoes the comments that were just made, in addition to this resolution, that happened and the public hearing that we had, I've heard, that our neighbors here who are here with us have really been experiencing a lot of, it's just been a little heavy-handed and harsh in terms of, hey, you're not in compliance with this law. Why do you have that vehicle there? Why do you have that equipment there? And they've felt, that's why it came, right? Is that they really have felt, that it was coming down really hard on them. And obviously it makes sense. They're trying to operate businesses, run their farms, that they need to have that. It goes to what Mr. Bogosian was talking about, enforcement, right? So I think we do need to look at all of our zoning codes. We need to look at what we're asking people to do, because one of the things I heard a lot from people last year that are in West Milton is that there's a lot of things that are being stored on properties, cars, abandoned trailers, things that quite honestly, if you drive through that area, it kind of looks a little like junk, that's there. And they're upset that we may not be enforcing existing laws that are on our books to clean that up. So, if we're giving, our friends and neighbors here in the R2 a hard time about this, why are we letting those other conditions exist? So I completely agree. We really need to look at it, figure out what laws and regulations we need to have, and we have to make sure that we're enforcing them fairly against everybody. So that's what I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, public comment number 2 is now closed.
We have a hand up.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Just.
All right, Sharon, you have to unmute. Did you? Go ahead, Sharon. We can't hear you.
He's still muted.
Oh, unmute. You've got to unmute yourself. Sharon, you have to unmute. Ask to unmute.
No. All right, we'll move on.
Let's all go to her house.
Okay, moving on with the agenda. Next, discussion from the board on any new business. I have just a couple things. I want to thank Jason and Kevin for the creation of the new sledding hill called Mountain Milton that we created out here in the middle of Burgess Kimball Park. Big hit. Brilliant idea from you two, and it's I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that the two of you did.
It was
in that
fun
project.
too.
I also want to thank Kevin and Jason for the work, diligent work they're doing in Woods Hollow. I know they've spent a lot of time up there just improving, cleaning up stuff that was laying on the ground, making it safer for the public. Created a new kiosk sign for the entrance off North Line. Outstanding job, you two. We appreciate all the work that the two of you do for the town.
Guys, they're actually enjoying a break from
Snow plowing.
They really enjoyed it, but they're doing a good job out there.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you guys from the board. We appreciate everything you guys are doing. That's all I have. If any other of the board members have any new business they'd like to.
I got a couple of things.
Go ahead, John.
I'd like to thank Kevin for the Mount Milton. Jason had nothing to do with it, so. I also want to thank him for the amount of hours they put in plowing and salting and sanding. They worked around the clock on a few weekends here, which has been pretty impressive. And not only did they work around the clock in our town, but they went at 3 o'clock in the morning and helped out the village. So I think that's a real attaboy for you guys.
Our crew's been doing a great job this year. They've been.
They have.
More than most people expect. We haven't had big snows, but we've had a lot.
Mhm.
Do a fantastic job, all of it.
We got a new inexperienced crew and the guys been really doing a good job. Makes us easy.
Good management.
And just to go and reimagine Milton, the quick update, we are starting to move forward with that project in phase one. You should see with, I know Jason's hanging his head because within the next month, we're going to sit down with Highway, see what they're be able to do with starting phase one and the roadways and the utilities and start that plan moving forward. So over the next few months in the summertime, you're probably going to see some changes out there, which is exciting. Town garage is got red steel up. A lot of red steel.
Yeah, wow. I went by
think
it
we're-
today.
I think we're headed into getting some walls enclosed and then hopefully getting some floors poured and get that project back on schedule. Even though they committed that we're still on schedule. But, and that's about it, I think, for what I have.
Eric, you're in the spotlight.
In the spotlight. Well, since everybody's gushing over the highway department, just a cold callback to resolution 25 we passed tonight. The two Western Star 47 X trucks, I believe, are the gigantic red things we see driving around when it's snowing, not during regular working hours. Jason, Kevin, and Dave do a great job of planning ahead, and they piggyback on other towns or other counties' contracts. In this case, Onondaga and Sourcewell contract. I'm not sure what that is, but by doing so, these very expensive pieces of equipment come at quite a discount. So they were able to save us $175,000 per truck by shopping smartly and getting on board with somebody else's contract. So, keep doing that as well as building gigantic sledding hills. It's awesome.
I think more importantly on the truck issue, if anybody's bought big trucks lately, we have one on order now for how long? 3 years. These trucks were available, and by having a reserve account set aside for this type of equipment, we were able to move on them. And like Eric said, we saved $175,000. The only downfall is they got to go back to driving standard vehicles.
Oh,
Old school. Anyone else?
I just
Mike?
have one thing. We're in the very beginning stages, preliminary discussions about the Milton Farmers Market. And we have a committee that we're going to be working with to kind of coordinate some of that. Our next meeting is going to be March 11th at 1 p.m. Anyone is welcome to come and provide input or help out. And obviously we'll be coordinating with Brenda as far as the youth camp and making sure that, we don't have field trips and everything at the same time. And also the surrounding communities, the village and other towns. We want to be aware and able to kind of work with everyone.
It's nice to see a lot of new faces here tonight. I'm glad to see that people in our town are really taking an interest in what's going on and making changes and positive changes, and we like to see that. And I want to give another shout out because I'm sure a lot of you people are not familiar with our engineer that's sitting up here in the front row, Mary Beth Bianconi. She's a huge part of all the projects that we have going on. She came aboard with us last year at the right time, and she's a big part of what's going on here in the town of Milton. But like Jason said, it's everybody from highway to buildings and grounds to the courts to Brenda's office. It takes everybody, and I want to give a shout out to Mary Beth because you've done an outstanding job for us too, Mary Beth. Thank you.
And I want to say, now that you're mentioning the people we have here today, I know we have a lot of representation from the R2. Truly want your input on this zoning and what your feelings are on it and what you need out in that area. And we want to preserve that area the way it is.
Any old business from the board they want to discuss? No? There will be no executive session this evening, so a motion for an adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Del Mickey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Soden?
Yes.
Councilman Frolich?
Yes.
Councilwoman? Yes. Supervisor Ostrander?
Yes, thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a wonderful evening.